The Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association says government has been harsh in its recent dealings with broadcast stations. It follows the shutdown of Radio Gold and XYZ yesterday, all affiliated to the opposition NDC. First, here's a report on the shutdown of Radio Gold filed by Kwesi Parker Wilson when he visited their premises yesterday.
Scores of NDC supporters thronged the Radio Gold premises here at Latabia Koshi. When they heard that the NCA and some police personnel had come to the premises of Radio Gold to shut down the station. When we arrived at the premises of Radio Gold, we saw police pickup and, of course, some security personnel as well. The district commander of Mamprobi Police Command, that is Cephas Arthur, tells me that they were not part of the NCU operation, but rather they came to the premises of Radio Gold because they got the information that they needed to protect the facility.
Yeah, we just got here. We had an information that there was the need for police presence here. So we have just got here. We are gathering our information. At the appropriate time, when we have enough information, we shall talk to you.
Now, the supporters were still around, still agitating and accusing government of having a hand in what is happening. Programs manager for Radio Gold, Richard Ejapon, narrates to me how NCA came to the station to shut it down.
They were here this afternoon around 2:30 p.m. and their instruction was that they have given us a letter which they were directed to come and shut the station down.
And prior to the incident, were you having any correspondence with NCA?
What I know, we've been trying to get in touch with them to regularize anything outstanding, but they were not forthcoming. That's what I know internally.
I see. Does it come to you as a surprise?
Very, because they came here with fully armed police officers, and I don't think that if you want a station to comply by regulations, you need to come here with intimidating police personnel. I mean, I don't think that's necessary.
I see. And they say that you're operating without authorization. That is the statement they have issued. I don't know if you've received a copy of the statement.
I think I've seen it. I've seen it.
And is that what it is? Is that the case?
I thought this issue was being handled by GIBA, and there was an issue with the electronic tribunal. So that is where we are taking the matter from. And so we didn't believe that that is how it should end.
And the letter, please, I want to be clear. What date was on the letter?
It was written on the 8th of May, and they served us today, 2:30.
And you say prior to that there hasn't been any correspondence between you and NDC?
No. As far as I know, I am very much aware they've not given us any information like maybe notifying you or giving you a number of days to comply with certain regulatory issues.
Now, the big question is that what is Radio Gold going to do next?
No, at the moment we have shut down.
Right.
That's what we are supposed to do.
And what's the next line of action?
That one, management will take a decision very soon.
Flag bearer aspirant of the opposition NDC, Sylvester Mensah, believes that there is political connotation to what happened today.
There's a clear difference between legitimate enforcement of regulation and politically motivated enforcement of regulation. And we could see clearly that it cannot be a coincidence that our party elders, the National Executive Committee and the elders of the party were having a press conference. And right at the time that the press conference was to be aired, all our radio stations were shut down. I mean, this is an interesting coincidence.
No,
and I'm sure
they're doing their work. I mean,
well,
it's a
very interesting coincidence. I think that Ghana has come very far. We have enjoyed some peace in this country. It is quite obvious that government is calling for civil disobedience. It is quite obvious that government is calling for some level of disorder in this country. I don't think that any government can thrive under such circumstances.
And MP for Ablekuma South constituency, Alfred Okovandapo, says he'll be working with the management of Radio Good to have a conversation with the NCO officials as to how they will bring the station back.
As a radio station, is the mouthpiece of, the people, and so the people must be able to express themselves, must be able to communicate, must be able to get information, must be able to, so it's important. If they have violated any regulations, we have to see what needs to be done to regularize it. You understand? So that the right thing or what needs to be done will be taken care of, so that the station will be back to business.
I am Kwesi Parker Wilson, reporting from Latibia Koshi Radio Go.
Meanwhile, the NCA has been justifying the shutdowns. According to Director General of the authority, Joe Anoche, the two stations failed to renew their spectrum licenses and authorization despite several cautions.
Decision to shut down the stations in Accra today. As I said earlier on, it's an ongoing process, and there are only two stations in Accra, right? In the category, there are only two stations. That's Radio Gold and XYZ. Tomorrow, I think we are in the other regions. So it could have been any station at all if you just happen to be in the category. Number of stations that need to be affected, and I think it's best that we don't discuss that. But trust me, we are just going to ensure that the right thing is done. But I don't think it would be right for me to stand here and mention the names of the stations. They've all been written to. Every one of them have received a letter from us one way or the other. Some of them in 2017, some of them wrote back to us. So what's the expiration date for Radio Gold and XYZ? Radio Gold expiration, it was in 2000. And I believe XYZ was in 2016.
Well, management of Radio Gold has responded in a statement and to some of the concerns raised by the NCA there, and response to the closure of Radio Gold by the National Communication Authority. And the statement says, in view of closure of Radio Gold by officials of the NCA in the company of armed policemen on Thursday, management of the Network Broadcasting Company Limited, operators of the station, wish to respond as follows: that at all material times, Radio Gold has been in touch with the NCA through our lawyers on the matter in issue, that we have made numerous attempts to submit the required documentation to the NCA for the purposes of renewing the frequency authorization, which documentation was inexplicably rejected by the NCA, that the unexplained rejection of a documentation by the NCA considerably stalled the renewal process, our best efforts notwithstanding, that we had hoped that any action of the sort undertaken by the NCA on Thursday would have been preceded with prior and adequate notification. And they add, it is regrettable that Radio Gold was shut down by the NCA at a time the station was providing intermittent live coverage of the press conference by the Council of Elders of the National Democratic Congress at its headquarters, that the closure of Radio Gold is high-handed and runs contrary to the spirit of engagement that has existed between the NCA and the station. And finally, that the above notwithstanding, our legal representatives will continue to engage the NCA with a view of resolving the matter in issue to ensure a quick resumption of our normal programming. And that's signed by James Ejenim Boateng, who is Chief Executive Officer. Well, we've had Professor Ransford Jampo take to his Facebook page to comment on this matter as well. And he is a political science lecturer. He says we cannot allow radio stations to operate without requisite licenses. I am of the firm belief and conviction that those who seek to ensure that politicians do the right thing must themselves operate within the confines of rules. But whoever ordered the shutdown of the radio station at this crucial time when our international rating on press freedom has reportedly gone down, and more importantly, when the political temperature of the country seems to be rising, has no good judgment and proper sense of timing. Couldn't this have been deferred to next week? A bad thing is a good thing done at the wrong time. 2. What the NDC Council of Elders did today is quite strange. Elders are elders. They offer counsel in camera and sometimes at dawn. I find the press conference convened by them as inappropriate. They may legitimately disagree with the reasons for the invitation of their national chairman, but they are not the ones to publicly suggest to the chairman not to honor the CID invitation. This should be left to the hawks and lawyers in the party. They should be seen to be calling for calm, as their action today could rather incite supporters. In their capacity as elders, they have the clout and stature to engage the powers that be behind the scenes to resolve this impasse. The political temperature is rising, and the earlier we reduce it and focus on improving the physical quality of life of the citizenry, the better for all of us. Yao Jampo. Well, he's not the only person commenting on this. A research fellow at the Institute of African Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Pesa White, stated that the NCA could have shut down the stations in their office rather than what he calls the Rambo style in which they did it.
There is a huge number of Ghanaians out there who are asking what has become of Ghana. For them, this idea that we are enforcing the law doesn't seem to really make a lot of sense, because if that is the only mechanism you have available, why do you have to do it at a time when a very important program being carried live was going on? But let me say that if you watch what happened yesterday, it's marks of panic reaction. Panic reaction in this, and it tells me the extent to which this government appears to be, for lack of a better word, afraid of its own shadows. The police had invited the chairman of the NDC. The Council of Elders had decided that we are addressing the press, or the nation through the press. What are you afraid of? Why don't you want the nation to listen to the Council of Elders? Why do you have to pull the plug by trying to shut radio stations?
You seem to be linking the two.
Of course, there is a link between them. There is no doubt about that. You know that XYZ and Radio Gold will carry live what the Council of Elders were going to be saying. And so, in a Rambo-style military fashion, you move in. By the way, if the NCA is being professional and knows its work very well, you don't need to even walk into those studios to shut them down. What is this show of force? It again reminds us of Ayawaso. And these things, as a nation, we are taking for granted, are the signs that began in places like Rwanda, Liberia, and other places. We sit here on radio and TV and we talk about them. It is a form of raising the consciousness of the nation to the gradual descent of our nation. I think that it could simply take one official from the National Communication Authority with a fully prepared ID, go to the management of that station and say, I have been authorized to ask you to shut down for A, B, and C. What is the business of police from the anti-terrorism squad there? What is that business for? I mean, seriously speaking, are the radio stations now war zones for which you need heavy security men and women to go and shut them down? And in this day and age, if you really want to enforce the law, you could sit at the NCA and make sure that those stations don't operate anymore, if you really mean to do it and do it properly. In fact, there are apps that can even, apps on your phone that can even interfere with your
So they didn't have to physically visit
Absolutely,
the
they don't have to. I mean, this show of we have power now, so we want to show you where power lies and everything. By the way, I am happy these things are happening. The reason, it is actually making this government very unpopular.
Meanwhile, private legal practitioner Akoto Ampao has defended the National Communications Authority's action. Speaking to JoyNews' Beryl Ernestina Ritza on the sidelines of the launch of St. Augustine's College's 90th anniversary, lawyer Ampao maintained if the NCA can prove that the said stations were shut down because they flouted the law, then the authority is justified.
What I can say is that those of us who are committed to a free media will always be concerned when we hear that a radio station has been shut down. This, however, does not mean that there's a license to media houses to flout the law. But if the radio stations have been shut down for reasons of authorization, and it can be demonstrated that there are no other stations who fall in the same bracket but have not been shut down, then I don't think that there's a problem, because we are living, even though there's freedom of expression, we live in a country of rule of law, and all media houses must respect the laws of the country, provided those laws are not unconstitutional.